welcome to the Lifestream podcast. I am Ryu Shikaze. I am joined tonight by Carlie, Lith, and Tenny, also known as Carla, Kayla, and Amanda, who doesn't fit the trend, but we will not hold that against her. Anyways,
also known as Ryu's Angels.
At least my name ends with an
That is true.
This is like our third version of this podcast.
Yes, we've attempted to record several times before. Now, are you guys ready to talk about Nier Automata?
Yes, actually,
Sure.
because I've talked about 15 so many times that I will talk about anything else on this point.
Yeah, no, we're actually here to record for Final Fantasy 15, but Nier Automata's good. Go play it. Taro Yoko deserves your love.
Or Persona 5.
This is the second time we've attempted to create a podcast about 15, because
Yes.
just like the actual game, we ran into some issues that delayed us.
Yes, literally our recording was lost at the last minute.
Yep.
Our old recording software died on us, and we lost everything.
So, like Versus.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But no, we are here to talk about Final Fantasy. Blah, 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 blah. We are here to talk about Final Fantasy 15, its music, its visuals, its plot, how hot the men are. Unfortunately, Jason Tandro could not be here to share with us the Fujoshi viewpoint, but we will fill in. So, we may or may not get to talking about episode Gladio. That will be at the end if we do.
Lith can handle that.
Yeah. Lith and I believe, are the only two who have played it, so we might have that as a separate thing.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Alright, so
Problem?
let us start. Overall impressions.
It was a nice game that if I could go back, I wouldn't necessarily spend $60 on it. It was better than I thought it would be, considering all of the issues, the very long time that the game took to come out, changing directors and all that stuff. But it's not a game that, for me personally, has any replay value. Like, I beat it, I was done, I didn't feel anything to I definitely want to play this again. Oh, I need to do the DLCs. Even though they really wanted you to play those DLCs, the way they shoehorned that in the game, I was like, oh, I need to be right back for some reason. Oh, I came back. Yeah, I'm not interested.
I like the game. The main plot was really short. I
Yes,
think
it was.
Kind of weak. I think that we needed more Luna. I don't care that she was in Kingsglaive. She still came off. She still needed more time in 15 itself. I think that what I enjoyed about this game was fucking around with the Chocobros. Doing all like the side quests. Getting the funny costumes.
The banter.
Their banter. I like the four of them together. I don't really care about the rest of it. I don't really care about Luna, and I don't really care about her and Noctis's relationship.
It really should have just been the four bros on a road trip, as the world's longest bachelor party forever.
Because, that's what I love about it. I love them and just playing as them. I don't give a shit about the rest of it. I mean, it's kind of cool. But the parts about the main plot that I like is the parts that focus on the bros and stuff that happens to them, not the stuff with anything else. I mean, some of it's cool, but the main thing is I like the bros, and that's it. And the Regalia. Regalia is the best character in the game. Just kidding, but still.
Even the flying version, though it is less.
Flying sucks.
The flying, no, I like the design of it, but the actual flying itself is just so bizarrely limited.
God,
and thank you so much for leaving that for after you finish the game. That's so useful.
Yeah.
I think we spent 10 minutes talking about how much we hated flying the damn Regalia when we tried recording this last.
At least
and
10 minutes.
Trying to get to the Pitios dungeon, I hated it so much.
Do you have to fly to get there?
You have
to fly to get there, and there is there is, when you go to fly to Ravito, there is a little yellow strip on the map. That's your landing strip. And
not on the mini map.
Yes, it's not on the
Only
mini
on
map.
the map.
So what sucks is you're trying to fly the car, and I have to keep looking, like, getting out of the screen to look at my main map in order to figure out where I am. Now, to be fair, the first time I tried to do this, it was nighttime in the game world, so of course I couldn't see where the fuck, this landing strip one was that was like a couple shades lighter than the normal ground around it. But still, even in the daytime, trying to land it is just you've got to angle the car down, you've got to start doing your descent, and it's like, if you graze a rock and you're dead.
Yeah.
Except the reactions are kind of funny.
Yeah, the very first time I tried to fly, I crashed so bad, and I'm all like, nope, I'm done.
What gets me is that they should not have had the car have HP in standard, even especially not in flying, because that's just irritating. What they should have done, if they really wanted you to worry about what the condition the car was in, have the car's performance be tied to how much health it had. Like, you could crash the car and, be stuck somewhere. And have to push
Cindy
it.
come and tow you or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like, I don't really understand what the development team were thinking exactly going with flying, because they showed the car flying in the Uncovered event, and that excited a lot of people, especially us. It's like, it looked really awesome. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looked like, so they're not going to do what you usually do in a Final Fantasy game, but at least the car flies and you can move around. But of course, we found out during the game that you actually can't do that until after you finish the storyline. And that's if you're promoting the fact that you can fly, that's not a good look. And then there's the fact that the actual way you can fly is not very good. Landing is terrible, like he said, the HP thing. And that really awesome dungeon that we had, you can only get there by flying, and you're probably gonna crash a lot of times before you can actually reach the dungeon.
Yeah, it's literally the only area in the game that you access by airship, that you can access by airship. Like, there's no other hidden areas to access with the dang car. And another problem that I started having was I'd be driving the Regalia, or it would be on auto or something, and I'd accidentally press the circle button and the car would take off, and I'm like, God damn it, man.
Yeah.
And so after that, I'm just like, I took my car back to Cindy and had her give me my old car back, which I kind of liked better, because you can't. I liked my whole decal setup I had going on with the Regalia, except I had to start filling the car back up with gas now.
There is something you can buy to make it not require gas over in the arena, but yeah, no, they should have just meant once you got the Regalia F, no gas, period.
Yeah. But,
I just say I only died twice in this entire game.
They were both in the Regalia.
The first time was on the train, and you're trying to you're being attacked by the Imperials, and I got onto an Imperial ship and was shooting down the other ships, and then the game kind of glitched out, and Noctis got stuck in the gun, and they couldn't get him out, and the ship crashed.
Classic Noctis.
Oh yeah, I think that happened to me.
The second time was in the Regalia, and I was trying to fly, and I crashed.
The only non-Regalia times that I've had, I don't think I've actually ever died in the game. I have had to restart a couple times when the game itself glitched out. Like getting stuck in a Phoenix Down animation forever. Thanks, Prompto.
I never had that happen to me. It was just I couldn't get Noctis out of the gun to get out of the ship. And then I watched the animation as the ship crashed, and it's like, game over. All right.
But no, the biggest one for me was when I was headed to the final boss, and I had just started into the Insomnia dungeon, and I had just defeated something in that first area, and I fell through the ground. Forever.
Forever.
I love shit like that, though. That makes the game complete.
Oh, if I had been able to like write it into a loading zone and get out, I wouldn't have been too worried. But like I actually scrolled all the way over to where the boss indicator was, and nothing. I actually had to restart that one.
See, I don't think I had many problems with glitches in the game, besides I was, like, traversing over some, like, I don't remember where it was, but it's like some rock plateau type thing, and I rotated the camera around, and Noctis and Gladio are, like, submerged and up to their waist in rock. I think I took a screenshot of it, but I don't know if you'd really count that as a glitch or not, but
that's a graphical
I don't think the game
glitch.
ever. I don't think the game ever really glitched out for me.
Same here. Like, other than like one time where I got stuck on the ship, I didn't have any hilarious glitches like I've been seeing on YouTube, and I'm kind of feeling bad about it.
Or you know what?
I want to see something hilarious.
The fact that it's been 5 months, I don't remember anything that was actually serious. I actually don't remember if I got any glitch whatsoever. But the fact that I can say, after finishing Andromeda, there was so many glitches and bugs that were awful and some hilarious. It actually was, the 15, relatively speaking, was well made in that regard. It wasn't anything super serious that was gonna give you like seriously damage your game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think other glitched areas were, I think some of the biggest, I guess what you'd call glitches involved, you know, some of the areas that I guess were going to be explorable, but then they made them, you know, off limits. And
people somehow got there anyway.
You know, people were able to get into them anyway, I guess, without downloading the day one patch or something.
So if you don't download the day one patch, you can get to those places?
Yeah, like I know Angel Guard, where Noctis woke up at the end of the game, the stone prison. I know if you just play the game without any patches, you can actually swim to the island on a chocobo. It will take you about an hour to get there, I think. But the area is explorable, and it's actually, I mean, it has to do with Bahamut and everything, but I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't have, in the game, they wouldn't have let you run around the island to begin with, even if there wasn't anything to pick up, but...
I have no idea.
Whatever. I mean, look up the videos on YouTube if you really, really want to. But,
okay.
let's get back on track here. My overall thoughts on the game, I love it. I don't regret buying it. My Ultimate Collector's Edition or my Luna console PS4. I acknowledge that the game has issues. Like, I love it to death, but it does have issues with the storyline and, you know, some of the characters and everything. But like Tenny said earlier, easily one of the best parts of the game is just the relationship between the four main characters,
Mm-hmm.
Noctis, Ignis, Prompto, and Gladio, who doesn't get enough love and kind of got the shaft on his DLC, but more on that later. For me, the game has a high replay value. I've done a lot of the timed quests. After I finished the game, I stopped playing it for like a month to start Dragon Age Origins, which I still have not finished, but I'm almost done with it.
Minus 10
Carlie
points.
disapproves. But, no, when that, thanks.
You haven't played Nier Automata yet, minus 20.
Oh, God. Really? But, no, I think we can, if you haven't heard of it, we might be able to put a link in it, when we upload the video, but, there's a really cool theory that came out about Piteos Dungeon, a couple months ago, and, after about a month of not playing 15, I read that theory, and I'm like, okay, I need to go and get my flying car and visit this dungeon, and I fucking hated it, and I will never replay that dungeon again.
I've heard that it's a bitch.
Oh, God, I hated it. I was almost done with the dungeon before I said screw it, and I found some, I don't know if you'd call them cheat glitches, but I found an easy way to easier way to get through the dungeon, because I got all the way up to that 2D room, and I just couldn't do it. I had already spent almost 11 hours in that dungeon up until that point, and I said, this is freaking ridiculous. But,
wow, it's that big?
It's not necessarily that it's that big, it's just
It does have a hell of a... It's a platforming challenge dungeon, and platforming is not so much the name of the game.
Your ability to get
15.
through the dungeon is based solely on your ability to control Noctis and to be able to jump through these obstacles and press the right button at the right time, and your ability
or hit
to
the
jump
right
on
loading
things.
zone.
Exactly. But I mean, it's a nice dungeon. I mean, I took a lot of pictures in it, but I will not replay that dungeon again.
If you do
I got
the
accessory.
2-minute version.
Yeah, I got the accessories from it, the Genji gloves and the black hood, which are the only accessories in that dungeon that are worth giving a crap about. Everything else you can you can either buy in the game, or you can, you'll get from playing missions or wandering the world map and stuff. So I walked away.
And there's a quick way all the way down and a quick way back up once you get there that people have found.
I think I walked away with like 20
not worth
diamond
going
bracelets.
through the whole of Pitios. I say that having gone through the whole of Pitios.
Pitios. That was a poor joke.
Oh my god.
Now you have minus 50.
Minus 10 more points. Oh, thanks.
Well, JT's not here to make the puns.
Do you guys remember a few months before the game came out? They did a poll in Japan about the game, about which game Japanese people would play, Final Fantasy 15 or Persona 5, and it was believed that was one of the reasons why they moved the release date away from Persona 5.
That more people wanted to play Persona 5?
Yeah, in Japan, yeah. Persona is not a hugely popular series over here, but it's huge in Japan.
And it's getting more popular over here, too.
I'm playing Persona 5. Yeah. Especially because the release for Persona 5 was really good. Playing Persona 5 right now, they did the right thing by separating the release date, because it's just, they're not close to Persona 5.
Persona 5's the better game, you say?
By a lot.
Blasphemy, Carlie.
It's a really quality game. I don't want to say it's not in the same genre, even though they're technically both RPGs, because 15 is trying to be the character action RPG.
Japanese version of Western RPGs. I think that's what 15 was trying to do.
In a way, yes, it's absolutely trying to be Skyrim-esque, but it's also trying to be a little bit of the sort of game that Nier and the original Nier and a couple others are, which is a bit more, because most of the Western style RPGs like Skyrim are very much in the sort of more FPS vein, if you will. Mass Effect, even Skyrim is very much geared towards first person, and Fallout absolutely is. Whereas this is this is only third person over the shoulder with a much more action and agility oriented playstyle. But other than that, yes, no, they are absolutely trying to appeal to the scrim market, and that is the best part of the game. To the point where I would say that it is basically the plot where 15 falls apart. The side quests are all solid, the character interactions are great, but it's not even necessarily the plot itself is bad. They just do a very bad job of giving you the plot. Yeah.
It's got a poor execution in some parts, I'll give it that.
To put it a similar way, and this is going to be a controversial statement, Final Fantasy XIII had a good story, told by a terrible storyteller.
I agree.
By contrast,
I felt the same way.
13-2, and especially Lightning Returns, had much worse stories, but the storytelling was better.
I mean, I think 15 had a great story. To be honest, there's not been a Final Fantasy game that I've ever played that I thought had a truly bad story. It's just the way some things were executed. And I think I may have mentioned this in the when we tried to last record, but like 10-2, for example, it has a lot of plot points in that game that make for a really good sequel material, especially, about the state that Spira is in after the events of 10, but it's just hidden and buried underneath the flimsy J-pop facade that, that is basically the face of the game. So, I mean, it has a lot of good story points. It's just poor execution.
Lith, are you saying that What Can I Do For You is not the height of pop culture sensibilities for all time? Are you trying to tell me that the song that they have Unising at the beginning of the game is actually kind of shit? Because you're kind of right.
What can I do for you? I'm kidding.
It's kind of a catchy song, and 1,000 words.
No, it's a very catchy song.
But...
It's just
it's weird.
They absolutely hyped up the game in a very particular way to get people's attention, and then all the best parts of that are sort of ignore that and actually look into what's been going on in the last 2 years.
Exactly.
I do, I agree.
I will say, with 15, while it has, I mean, a lot of the side quests are good, but they just get they get so boring and repetitive after a while. Like with the hunts, for example, in 12, I can take on as many hunts as I want. Whether or not I'll be able to complete them is a different story. But with 15, you can only do one hunt at a time, and I hated that
me.
because, I'm just like, great, let me go kill this hunt. Let's go back to the diner, collect my reward. It's just kind of like, I mean, I understand it's a different take on it, that you're going through like the diner and the food vendors and stuff that are, I guess in charge of this crap. But, like in 12, you went and found different people that would give you the hunt and tell you where the mark was. And, like I said, you could take on as many hunts as you wanted. But 15 just doesn't do that. You don't find, it's basically, here's a monster, it's causing trouble, go kill it, come back and get your reward.
I absolutely would have liked to have been able to take on multiple hunts at a time. I can understand them all being in the same area, mostly because a lot of other games do use a bounty board system for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have been able to take on multiple hunts at the same time.
And I think Sorry.
Because one of the things that I do in a lot of open world games is that I will just start loading up my quest docket, and I will figure out where they all want me to go, and I will just start making big round trips across the map to fulfill them, turn them in, grab another one. I'm basically doing the long haul trucking of adventuring.
Yeah, which is that's what I'm usually fond of, but 15 kind of takes that away from you, and it only in like the hunt aspect. I mean, you can still take on a bunch of side quests, but as far as the hunts go, you can only do one at a time. Even if it's in a completely different area, your current hunt will be aborted if you decide to take a different one halfway across the continent, which doesn't make any freaking sense.
Even if you're in a section of the world that nobody else, none of the other hunts can go to, like if you've got one going on in the main map and do one in the Listalum map, you'll give up the one that you'll give up the one that's on the Lucis map.
Exactly. Well, Listalum is in Lucis.
Which is, I mean, not Listalum.
I get what you're saying. I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah, no.
Altissia.
It's Altissia. For some reason, I keep getting those two names, and those two names specifically confused. I don't know why.
It happens.
Come on, Ryu. Get it together.
I guess I'll just say Zappy City and Wetty City.
Zappy City and Wetty City. I like it.
Yes.
I dig it. Okay, moving on. Battle system and magic system. I didn't even bring up magic system the last time we recorded, so I guess it's kind of a good thing that we're doing this a second time, but...
On the other hand, that means we do have to talk about just how bleh the magic system is.
Yes. But regardless, I mean, even if it was bleh, I think we should still touch upon it.
Oh no, absolutely.
Well, I think when you get the accessories that shield your people from being hurt by your spells, then it's actually kind of fun.
Oh no, it's great. They should have just had that be the standard.
Yeah, I suppose. But it actually is kind of hilarious when your people are getting zapped.
Yeah, I didn't bother with covering up from friendly fire just because I think it's hilarious to watch Gladio do the funky chicken or, hearing Prompto be electrocuted. That's just some excellent voice recording done by Robbie Damon.
At least for me, the battle system, I realized very quickly in the tutorial that I wasn't gonna like it. So I had the game in normal. It's like, I'm gonna go down to easy because I'm gonna have a really frustrating experience with this game if I don't. I just, like, they tell you you do this and this and this, and it's like, no, I'm just gonna push the button until something happens. And then when you're fighting in the woods or outside and the trees cover everything that's happening, you can't see what's going on. You're just like randomly hitting stuff until something happens because I don't know what the hell is happening because I can't see anything.
Yeah, the battlefield did kind of feel chaotic at times, and it did, like, if you've got, like, shit, I can't talk.
I think the biggest problem with the battle system was the camera.
Oh god, that was even worse.
And the warp points around you.
Yeah. If they'd had a better camera, specifically a camera that learned how to transparency stuff that was between you and Noctis, the game would have been a whole hell of a lot, easier to handle, even in the big crowds. Also, if Noctis did not try and auto-lock on whatever was nearest to you, and you could actually control him a little bit better.
Yeah, I hate that sometimes, especially when I'm on a field of, like in some of the timed quests that they've been coming out with recently, I'll try and, I'm really trying to take down the ginormous snake that's health, where I've got its health almost depleted, but Noctis wants to lock on to the snake that is at full health, and I'm like, no, I want to take down the one that's almost dead.
Yeah, no, I mean, at least you can very easily sort of reset what you're targeting on, but, and granted, this is, I'm comparing something that is, a Square Enix developed in-house to a game that Square Enix published but was made by Platinum. For example, Nier Automata, even though you're locked onto one enemy, you can always attack that rat bastard who's literally right next to you just by reorienting your character and having a couple slashes. And if you're not locked on, you just start slashing in the direction that you're facing.
One thing Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, it's just... I just sort of... And they do improve on that a little in episode Gladio. I just wish that the whole... fighting experience was a little more in your control.
True.
Because it's not like you can't do that.
Yeah.
Square has a number of games. Square Enix, Kingdom Hearts, Nier, and a few that are literally just Square Enix games, not games that they've just produced but came from other people. Like The Bouncer, even, way back then, that could absolutely handle this sort of thing with no issue. And if I'm saying The Bouncer could handle it, that they could have done this now. Anyways, go ahead.
Crap, what was I going to say? I was kind of iffy about the combat system at first, just seeing it in all the trailers and just even watching it develop, going from Versus to 15 throughout the years, just the way it was so fast-paced, and I'm kind of boring, and I'm I'm not really good at action games, so I was kind of worried I wouldn't grasp the combat as easily as some other people might, but no, I got the hang of it pretty fast. I tried the wait mode just to see what that was like, and that was way too slow for my taste, so I didn't even bother using the wait mode throughout the whole game. I just used regular combat. A good thing I remember JT brought up the last recording that got deleted was that you have to rotate the camera around in order to see your warp points. It would have been nice to be able to just press triangle and be able to warp to that point without having to rotate the camera around and find it.
Yeah, no. Generally, my basic thought is, no matter what, if you hold down triangle, you will warp to the nearest point that is in...
that's in your that you're able to
in your vicinity,
get to.
Unless there is one that you can see that is a little farther away. But if you can't see any of them, and you're just but there is one, and you're holding triangle, you just warp to it automatically. Because it's not like you've forgotten that it's there. So, Noctis shouldn't either.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, other than that, the game for me was, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, it was easy at times. It was challenging at some times. I have fun with the combat, but on my on the playthrough that I went back and started playing and was trying to get all the hunts done and stuff before I did a new game plus, basically I just warp strike everything to kill it. So it's just it's easy to take advantage of. When you're so overpowered, I don't bother with hack and slash anymore. I'm like, just warp strike, warp strike, warp strike, warp strike.
Yeah.
Especially in that. Did any of you? I don't know if Tenny did, but did you kill the Adamantoise, Ryu?
Yes. I have not. I did the quest where
that
you
was a
wake
pain in the ass because the thing is so huge. And I'm trying to warp strike to the head constantly, and I just it was. For me, it was just more of a time-consuming hunt than anything. But it was made easier by the fact that I actually didn't attempt that hunt until that booster pack with the Ragnarok sword came out, nice. Which overpowers. It gives you a warp strike from hell, You've got this, it's like a red sword, it gives you this red aura when you warp strike, and it's basically 9999 every time you warp strike and hit somebody. It's
nice.
amazing.
Oh, that's nice.
I love that sword. And that's pretty much what I use. I don't bother with the armature weapons anymore. At least on this playthrough. Maybe when I go back, when I start my new game plus or whatever eventually, I will use the regular weapons and stuff. Magic system. What do we think about that? Kind of boring and bland, right?
It's very boring and bland. They could have done so much more with it. At the very at minimum, just have take off friendly fire. Make it a little easier to access. I agree with I like the crafting idea of it, but the actual execution is a bit sort of lacking, and they need to redo the control layout, but they kind of need to redo the whole control layout anyways.
I didn't like it at first. I think the first time where you actually where they tried to make you use it was where you fought that behemoth Deadeye. When you got that hunt at the Chocobo post, I think. And I didn't. I hated the way it made you aim and stuff, and I didn't bother trying to blow up the barrels, even though that was the best way to take its health down. And I
did that hunt at night, which I'm going to say don't do that hunt at night because I couldn't even see what I was doing.
I don't remember what level I was when I fought him, but I do remember that I had to. I don't think I died. I think I died. I think that was probably the first time I died in the game. and I started that hunt over, and I was actually able to aim and hit some of the barrels to blow up by Deadeye and kill the thing.
Yeah,
But
I think if you waste the barrels, that is way, way too hard. But I think there's actually a script in there to, if he gets hit by the barrels, he basically automatically dies. Because the damage values that he gets taken off of those do not add up.
I don't remember. It's been so long since I've done that fight. But, I mean, you know, it wasn't even until recently that I figured out how to make, like, the Firaga, the Blizzaga, Thundaga spells and everything. Like, I didn't... I mean, I started using the magic and stuff, but I didn't bother trying to figure out how to get everything to the highest level until recently when I was like, hey, let me mix this with, like, some Phoenix Downs or something. So I'm mixing a fire spell with, like, a Phoenix Down, and I get, like, a Tricast or something along those lines, and it's like, Fira, Fire, Fira, ooh, Firaga. So if I put, like, 90-something Phoenix Downs on a Fira, it's gonna bump it up to a Firaga. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. Only downside to that is, like, the whole area is on fire. Like, if you're not wearing the right accessories, you will burn yourself because there's no way to escape it. Like, it's that spell sticks around for a while, and you've got all your party members. Yeah, you've got all your party members doing the funky chicken and trying to get away. But I mean, it's just for me, the magic system was okay. It's kind of, I don't know. It's an okay magic system. I wouldn't necessarily say it's, like, too boring. It's just not really noteworthy to me. It's not noteworthy. But I do like how some of the different items that you get can give you different effects. Like, you know, you've got fire that casts poison. I don't know how that works, but I think I use the Expira cast a lot, which is, like, with the debased monies and stuff, where you can get experience for casting those spells, and I'm like, hell yeah!
I use those all the time.
And speaking of that, it's very easy to level up your characters in this game. Very easy. Just hoard the experience, go to a hotel that bumps up, you know, your experience earned by, like, 1.5, 2, 3, and you'll go up, like, 10 levels. It's very easy to take advantage of that system in this game, which is a good thing and a bad thing depending on, you know, how much of a challenge you want.
Well, the only downside of that too is that if you stay in the hotels, especially if you go to Altisha, where you can get the most points, if you go to, was it the guy on the right side of the desk?
Yeah, you got to stay in the royal suite.
If stay in the royal suite, you know, stuff like that, it's great. But then you don't get to level up Ignis's cooking.
That is why the Nexperience band was invented, because they realized that people wanted to do both. And I do think that the ability to choose whether or not to bank your XP would have also been a good thing to have added without the need for an accessory slot.
Oh.
Yeah. I got the Nexperience band from one of the patches or something with the season pass or something, and I haven't bothered using it.
I didn't think about to use it that way. So if you put it on when you go to a campsite,
your EXP doesn't tally up.
Yeah, you still get XP, but you don't bank it.
So you can just okay.
No, I thought you could bank it with the band. You just didn't level up. It didn't level up your characters. It just leveled up your skills. I don't know.
No. When you got the band on, when you go to a camp or any other place, it will skip the counting your XP and leveling you up step. You will still get your skills up.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, so that's if I put that on, then I can go to a campsite, do some cooking, and then I can go to Altisha and stay in the royal suite.
Instead of keeping your party up for 17 days. 17 days without sleeping.
Wow, hardcore.
Yep. I did something similar before I realized what the Nexperience ban. Well, actually, right before it came out, I think.
If you wait too long, too, don't the guys like start commenting on it? Like, I'm so tired, I haven't slept in a while, or something like that.
Yep.
They're kind of like telling you, like, go stay somewhere.
Yeah.
I thought that happened. Or at least maybe it's something else and I interpreted it as being that and I was wrong. I don't know.
I think they just made those comments anyway. I don't know if it had anything to do with how many days you were banking your EXP, but I can go back and
yeah, you're probably
test
right.
it out if I remember it.
Now, the only other thing that I can think of for the battle system that would be a criticism for me is that they put so much effort into making the world so detailed, sometimes the details get in the way.
Oh,
like,
geez.
You don't know how many times I'll be fighting enemies, and then, like, here come the Imperials, and here come more enemies, here come Imperials. I actually think it's fun when it happens, but when you're, like, stuck in the bushes, when you're stuck in the bushes and you can't see what's happening, that's super annoying. It's like, okay, Square, I get it, you wanted this game to be pretty, we didn't need this many bushes because now I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Well, you know what those bushes do, right?
I can't
those
tell
bushes,
you
how... in your way?
Yeah, they literally exist, most of them, to act as first a soft and then a hard barrier to keep you from being able to wander freely, willy-nilly across the map.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I was deep in the bush before Imperials above us.
There's
or whatever.
One set of bushes that pisses me off so much.
Oh,
so you know the road that heads up on the west side of the map, and it's the stretch where it's road on the west is nothing but straight mountain cliff heading all the way up to the northwest side of the map. On the right, there's the little down area in the river.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Is that
where the little witch's hut was?
It's near... Well, no, she's south of there. That's where the forest dungeon is. The part I'm talking about is... So there's the pit stop, and then a little north of that pit stop, there's a rest area. If you head directly south from that rest area along the side of the river, eventually you run into, right about when you're about to hit the pit stop where you left your car, you will hit an impassable wall of brush. You can actually see the little town and the gas station. But you can't get there because, nope, too much brush. And of course you can't go in the water because, what the hell, I'm a prince, I don't know how to swim. That actually is another thing that does cheese me off. You can't swim unless you're on a chocobo.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I need to go back and find this part then, because I don't really remember it.
Okay, so you remember the dungeon where you get the second royal arm, the sword that Tomet leads you to?
Tomet?
The kid.
Talcott. Oh, the glacial grotto.
Yeah, so if you go back to where you fought the... so from the glacial grotto, if you stay in that area, and you start walking north, without heading back up the trail, so if you stay by the river and walk north, you very quickly run into an impassable, barrier of shrubbery. And I did not realize that was an impassable barrier until I tried to get, go from the north side of the river and come back down. And got all the way there, and then had to backtrack. That was irritating.
Well, at least you had your chocobos.
I need to go and look up that thing then.
It's you know where I think the second leg of the fishing quest is?
The Vesper pool? Are you talking about the Vesper Gar?
No, not the pool. When he's trying to get you, when he's standing in the river.
Oh, yes. I do remember where that is.
Yeah, so if you head straight south from there, and then after that I started noticing a lot more of them. And they're almost all on the west side of the map. Like, the desert and a little bit of the... basically, if you're in the easternmost or middle part, most of the places that look like you can walk to them, you can walk to them, but once you get past the scar, then, or the canyon, then you are basically SOL. And they basically, the map is very much constrained, and you start seeing the seams a lot worse.
Alrighty, so let's just, moving on. Let's talk about the music briefly before we dive balls deep into the story, because I know we've all got a lot of opinions about, the story, the characters, and how everything was done. So, what did we think of the score by Yoko Shimomura?
I think this is the same thing that I said with Kingsley. It's a really good soundtrack. There were parts in the game, and the same thing with the movie. The music wasn't used as well as it should have been.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of the original soundtrack gets overshadowed by the fact that most of the music you're going to be hearing in the game comes from other games. Because most of the music is going to be heard in the travel in the car.
In the Regalia. Yeah.
Unless you just fast-tracked everywhere.
Yeah, I did do fast travel everywhere once I got enough money.
And I know that there's some songs with the soundtrack that were done by other composers, but everything that Shimomura does in general is amazing. She's a really great composer. She's one of my favorite composers.
Everything she touches.
And then of course there's Florence and the Machine.
Oh yeah.
There's some good songs.
I love Stand By Me. I love her version of Stand By Me.
Yeah, you got Stand By Me both at the beginning and the end of the game. I mean, all in all, I think the soundtrack, the actual score is very epic. I mean, even some of the songs not done by Shimomura. I mean, there are a few tracks that I guess you could consider generic video game type tracks. I mean, there are some tracks that kind of seem out of place, like the ones that are big on the harmonica, like at the rest stops and stuff. I kind of get where people are coming from, but I mean, in no way does the soundtrack to this game suck, because I've seen a lot of comments like that on social media, especially Facebook and Twitter, but I mean, there's a lot of epic songs on this soundtrack. I mean, I love it. I actually listen to it damn near every day because I'm a nerd.
I don't mind the harmonica songs at the rest stops. I mean, I understand the kind of feel that they were going for, and the harmonica music fits what they were aiming for.
Yeah.
I think it fits best in the eastern section. And I would have liked, and this is not a complaint mine, this is a request, I would have liked to have heard non-harmonica tunes, or rather the same tunes in other instruments in other areas, like in, say, flute in the forest, and violin in the mountains, and oh heck, I don't know, banjo by the by the volcano.
One of the biggest complaints with the score is just that they didn't use it in the way that Final Fantasy games have traditionally used it. You have the same sort of 3 tracks when you're running around the open world, whereas in previous games you have a different song for every area, and where was I going with this?
They reused the same song several times rather than having a different one for each area.
Yeah, I mean, they use the soundtrack, in an unconventional way, and I guess some people didn't like it, but I mean, whatever, get over it.
One thing I would have liked to have seen more of, in less, though this is not so much soundtrack, but speaking of stuff having a unique identity, is more, even if they were abandoned, more signs of like large settlements.
Oh. Yeah, like large settlements in Lucis.
Yeah, or in general, because the way that the game comes off, it feels like there are only 3 large cities and then a tiny little burg in Lestalem. But then you just got Insomnia, Alticia, and the Imperial capital city. Even the other capital cities do not, like, they feel tiny because of how little stuff you actually see in them.
Yeah, I mean, in the Lucis continent, it's kind of, because the majority of it, except Insomnia, has been under Imperial control. So I kind of see what Square was trying to do, and that, they didn't put that many big cities under there, but I mean, I don't know. Like, the Empire has occupied Lucis for a long time, but I mean, wouldn't there have been bigger cities before they came along,
Oh, yeah, and the thing is, like, there should still be,
like, at least remnants of those cities before people, just filed out and flocked elsewhere.
And I understand that we're never going to get, like, an accurate representation of a world in a game. That's just not going to happen. Like, even as big as the world map of 15 was, it's still technically only, like, a couple hundred square miles converted into real measurements.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there were there are a couple provinces in Lucis that you don't actually get to explore. One of them is Galad, which is where Nyx and Libertas are from in Kingsglaive, and then there's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but the Kava region, which is outside of Insomnia. You don't see those, and there may have been big cities in those, but I mean, obviously we don't see them, so it's kind of moot point. But
yeah, no, the thing is, like, we're obvious, like, all we're seeing is the western side of what used to be the grand country of Lucis, but it just feels like, for as big and as prosperous as all of this world was supposed to have been, it seems like they were trying way too hard to evoke the sections of and specifically, I do think they were trying to evoke the United States. But the sections of the United States where it goes so long without being able to see anybody, without realizing what that sort of implied for their world.
Yeah. To be fair, like, I keep saying to be fair, but Square did state that the rest of Lucis is about 30 years behind Insomnia. That's why Insomnia looks like modern day Tokyo, and the rest of it kind of looks like, not necessarily backwater, but it's just, sort of got this 50s retro style to it. Did anybody else catch Keep going, sorry.
Oh, those, if it was like 30 to 50 years behind, it'd still be pretty freaking built up if it was, because, the big industrial boom in a lot of the West was actually happening at around that time. And I get that they're trying to say that, it's mostly farmland, but the weird part is there's just so much empty space in a lot of the places that would be the most likely to build up and have cities.
Exactly. I did anybody else catch the Cuban influences in Lestalem?
Yes.
Because that's definitely what it reminded me of. Even just the music, it just reminded me of Cuba for some reason, even though I've never been to Cuba. But I thought
I didn't even think
there
about
were
that.
there were many areas in the map, even with like the enemies that were there that reminded me. I'm like, I wonder if they based this part of the map on, like, there's one area that kind of just reminded me of, like, an African safari, and you've got the weird giraffe animals and weird looking little kind of hyena looking jackal things running around. I'm like, I wonder if this is meant to evoke thoughts of Africa or something, or I wonder, if they base this part off of a rainforest or something like that. So there's a lot of different habitats in Lucis that felt like they were based on different parts of the world.
As regards to the Cuba thing, if that's what they were going to, as someone who lives in the Caribbean, they did not do a good job at all.
It's just, it evokes
representing that.
Me, it reminded me of it. I don't think they were just trying to.
I could see it as being like Cuban immigrants to New York sort of feel. Might be what they were trying to go for. Rather than
I can
Cuba
go more
itself.
with.
Yeah.
And then there's that part where the two gangs are, singing at each other in the street and snapping their fingers. That was a great side quest. You had to be on the west side of Lestalem to get that one.
And video games fall into this a lot of times. When you do a game with an open-ish world, the problem is they end up doing there's a lot of space and not a lot interesting things going on in it. Same with the cities. Altissia looked beautiful in the trailers. There's nothing to do there. There's nothing to go there. There's just a lot of empty streets that there's nothing. You get bored very quickly. That's the other thing. Not only is there nothing to do there, it's like insane to move around there. You get lost all the time. Lestalem is the same thing. When you go there for the first time and that you're arriving on the car, it's like, oh, this look great, and it's like 3 hallways and that's it. And that's no. Even like the huge thing about Lestalem is like the power plant where all the women work there. It's only women that work there. But you only go inside one time, and it's just like the stupidest quest. Like I think this is just they needed something to go in between doing the first doing Titan and something in between that, and just like came up with a stupid quest that didn't go anywhere. The whole thing with Gladios.
They needed a flashy way to get Gladio back in with the party.
Yeah. And the thing is, they're trying to pretend like a mistake. Oh, who is the guy? That's obviously Gladius. Like his voice, that's Gladius. What? You go into the power plant, you fight a few monsters, and you get out. And I thought like it looked really cool at first because I thought it was like doing an homage to Final Fantasy VII, to the first manga reactor. But no, that's not where they were going with at all. It was just like a completely waste of time.
It would have been great if they had a guard scorpion fight there, but no. So what I think a lot of what happened in 15 is, so you know who the director, the big guy in charge, Tabata? Do you know what his like unofficial job title is in Square Enix?
No.
I'm at a loss.
This game is shit and over budget. Get it ready to ship. He has worked on quite a number of games, most of which have been very, very troubled productions. Not because of him, but because he's the only reason we ever saw them see the light of day. Like, he's the guy who took Third Birthday, and turned it into a functional, if shitty, game.
So if a project is
so
going
they give
down
all
the
their
hole,
shitty projects to Tabata and say, here, make something of it.
Yes. And so he's the reason why 15 is not still in development hell. So the fact that he was given that game does say a lot about the state it was in beforehand.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What I think, I actually wrote this down in my podcast notes so I wouldn't forget it. I mean, we know the production period of this game was extremely rushed, and just overall, it kind of feels like the culmination of a production team that really couldn't find a lot of common ground with things. We all know that Versus was never a fully realized game. I mean, a lot of people think that Versus would have been a much better game, but it's not as if they completed Versus 13 and said, you know what, let's just change this title to Final Fantasy 15 and completely rework everything from the ground up and, basically screw the fans in the ear. That's not
it was just a lot of incompetence is the issue. And that's where they lose all sympathy, because they got into that mess all by themselves.
Oh, yeah. And I think, when they originally... I'm sorry, I need to get this out, otherwise I'll forget.
Go ahead.
I think when they announced 13 and Versus 13 and Agito all those years ago, it was basically they announced this ambitious project and then realized that it basically they couldn't do it. It wasn't going to happen. So they focused all their efforts into 13. Then they made Agito into Type 0 for PS4, and then they're like, okay, let's make Final Fantasy 15, and let's make Versus into 15. What I think happened is that by the time they actually focused all those assets into making that transition from Versus to 15, there were just too many storylines and plot devices that they probably had no way of feasibly intertwining. I think the reason that they went through so many story changes is because they were trying to keep so many elements from Versus while simultaneously trying to create a new game and put their own touch on it. And then then as time went on, I think they realized that most of these Versus elements simply weren't working in their favor in the world they were trying to create, and that's why they scrapped the majority of it. That's what I think.
Here's the thing for me. Especially old people, when they go about like the good old days and how great they were compared to now, it's because those are things that live in your memory as time passes. You start looking at some of the things that happened years and years ago a lot better than they actually were. The other thing is, especially with works that go on an extended hiatus or stuff like that, that you start making like stories in your head of filling that time up. Say Star Wars or stuff like that. Avatar went to the same thing, where like you had a lot of stories of where like the avatars came from and like bending and all that stuff. And when they answered that in an episode of Legend of Korra, the episode was great, but a lot of people were annoyed with what happened. I think it's the same thing with the Final Fantasy 15. Because the development went through a lot of time, and what the game you were expecting was Versus. Like, just we all started creating stories in our head about what that game was gonna be like and what was gonna happen, and then like Versus got turned into 15, the story changed, and once the more evident problems that 15 had came to light, and you saw when you played the game, then you started comparing that into what you thought in your head was gonna be the game.
Exactly, and I think that in Square on it, I think they dug that hole themselves, because they kept releasing all of these trailers of a game that they like. I mean, all the Versus trailers that were ever released, they kept releasing them, even though they clearly weren't focusing the majority of their company assets into making it into a game. They just kept releasing these flashy trailers and, giving little tidbits about what the game was going to be like in magazines and stuff. But, their attention was clearly focused elsewhere. And, I mean, they dug themselves that hole.
Yeah. They needed to have Nomura focus just on that instead of trying to make like 5,000 Kingdom Hearts games.
Yeah.
And now
about a different clone of Sora.
Never a Kingdom Hearts 3.
Because like everyone is Sora. Or Xehanort.
We can be here a while trying to decipher all the messy things that the Dark Kingdom Hearts into. I think the other issue with 15, and I can attest to this, when the idea of Versus came out, that seemed like a really interesting idea for a video game. When the idea for 15 came out, I was like, I've seen that before. It could be good, but in reality, people are gonna gravitate towards I never seen this before, I want to see this too, I've seen this before, it might turn good, but I was looking forward to the thing that I haven't seen before.
I had a hard time following that.
I think it's because it's late and...
Sorry. Time to talk about the plot. Let's go.
First half of the game, there wasn't really a plot. It was just like a lot of running around, making jokes, being funny, which is actually very entertaining. The fishing too, and all that stuff. If I could take the first half of the game and just stay there and like critique that first half of the game, it was fun. It could use a lot of improvements, but I could see that they were taking stuff they have seen from other games, like okay, let's implement that here because it's work. Not everything was implemented well. This was a couple of things that could use a lot of work, starting with the fact that as good as the interactions between the characters were, for someone that plays Bioware games, they still have a long way to go in terms of how the development with characters can go to. Uh, the whole thing with Prompto, you can stop on one of the hotels and you can have a conversation with him and have this discussion and maybe change his mind on something, but that doesn't do anything for the story. If you stop on the same hotel again, you can have the same conversation again. There's no progression into that.
That's because the conversation gets you a camera lens, and so they give you multiple chances to get the conversation right.
That shouldn't be the point of developing a character. Oh, if you do this conversation right, you get a camera lens. With Bioware games, you get loyalty missions, you get a lot of discussions with characters and all that stuff. I can see what they were trying to do, but it's just a lot of improvements on that.
Well, I mean, it's also a different way of storytelling, too. I mean, it's too... What am I trying to say? First of all, some of those cutscenes, like the cutscene with Prompto, is entirely optional. I did not even get that on my original playthrough. I had to go back to that hotel and actually stay there to get that scene. So I didn't get it on my first playthrough. But I think the beginning of the game set up the relationships between the characters and their roles in the party pretty well. You've got Noctis, who's...
And they did a really nice job at that.
I think...
There's still some things that I know that I never got when on my playthrough. Like, I never got a side quest to have Noctis help Ignis cook dinner. Apparently that's a thing, though.
Yeah, it's at one of the random
that
campsites.
Is a thing.
But no, I do think that the game should have been more of those sorts of things, and instead of having it be tied to specific locations, have it be tied at least slightly more organically to, points where you are in with, your buddies and actually have a building relationship, sort of like social links. I mean, obviously, you can't do all of the little quests at all of the campsites, but you can at least have like little markers of go here and you will, like, it'll be a little immersion breaking, but all of your quests are a little immersion breaking. You'll just get a da-da-da wants to go here and do this with you.
And it needed to have more because it's really just once that it can happen. You can cook. You have that cousin with Ignis once cooking dinner. You have one cousin with Gladius that you go running with him. You have one with Prompto. There's no more of that. Like, it was a nice idea. There needed to be a lot more of it. The other thing was...
Actually, who was it? Somebody was telling me that they got the photo shoot with Prompto in a completely different area than I did. Because, like, there's, like, that dock with, like, the lighthouse.
What photo shoot? Because he takes you on multiple photo shoots.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stops a lot of times when you're
at a specific...
Yeah, when you're going around, he was like, let's stop and take a picture here. He does it all the time.
Not that one. The one where you're camping, and then you wake up early the next morning, and you have Noctis pose for Prompto. Apparently, I was talking to, somebody said that they got that same quest, but in a different area. And, like, most people I've been seeing it are down on that dock. But then somebody said there's somebody else who's claimed that they got that same thing in a completely different area. I can't remember who it was. And I've been trying to figure out where else would you go to have that happen again? And can you trigger that one if I triggered this one?
Ask Trace.
Yeah. Oh my god, he should be on this podcast. He's like knows more about this game than we do, and he hasn't even played it yet.
Yeah.
Oh
He has
God.
gotten very, very
Yes.
much into research for this game.
Yes, please, to whoever's listening, if you're looking for anything related to the lore of Final Fantasy 15, go on the forums and look at all the research done by Trace, better yet known as the Twilight Mexican, on the TLS forums. He has put an insane amount of research into the lore of 15, which includes, a lot of the loading cutscenes that give you the little tidbits on characters and the battle and stuff like that. A lot of cutscenes with glitches. Just, oh my god, there's so much I can't even list, but I mean,
It's crazy.
go on the forums and check it out, because a lot of it's worth a read.
Yeah.
For someone who
he
hasn't
doesn't
even
own a
played the
PS4.
game.
What's impressive is how come his commitment to this kind of stuff. But he doesn't really like the game all that much. Even though he hasn't played it. What he's seen of it, he's like, no.
But yes, if anybody out there would like to donate to the fund to get Trey's, aka the Twilight Mexican, a PS4 and Final Fantasy 15, send the money directly to me, and eventually I'll make sure he gets one.
Probably when the PlayStation 5 comes out.
Yeah, when we've got
send
enough.
the money to me, I will actually do it. I'm a trustworthy person.
But I'm closer, you see, so I can
but
actually
let's be honest,
drive
who
to
would
his
he
house and
want
get it to
to
him.
go to more? You or Tenny?
He absolutely would want Tenny to drive over and visit him, probably naked. He wouldn't want to see me naked, but it's a much bigger trip for
Yeah,
him.
I don't live. I live further away than Ryu does, so I guess it does make a little bit more
So
sense.
if you live closer,
on the order of several thousand
Tenny,
miles.
if you live closer, you will actually do it?
No, not naked anyway.
I, on the other hand, would, but I don't think he'd want to see it. But that's why I do it, just for the hilarity.
It's amazing that we've gone this long without making
we broke the streak.
joke.
Well, we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes. I thought it was about time that we officially shifted into After Dark. Back to the plot. So what did you guys think? So we've been discussing character building in the early stages before the plot actually gets going. What do you guys feel about once the plot actually gets going? I'd say that's probably like chapter 4, when they actually lock you into an area and say, nope, you have to do this to progress.
Okay, every time the game says that, it doesn't take long to get out.
No, but that's about when
Is
the
that
plot
when you
actually
find
starts
that
kicking
random
into some sort
Empire
of gear.
dude that I think the game wants you to thought there's I was asking am I supposed to know this guy? Because he's talking like am I supposed to know him? Then you find him in a robot and it's like, bye dude, that same I'm not going to remember.
And then he shows up again later and is all like, was that the one dude that I fought earlier? I think it was, but I can't remember. And there's another guy that I think I fought earlier, but I can't remember his name either.
Like you can see how memorable they were.
I think one of them.
Some side plots. That's the
problem.
It's all like, okay, I think I fought a dude in this one place, and I think this is the same dude, but he was so unimportant to the story, but they're treating him like he is important, but I just don't care. That I forgot his name.
But yeah, that's the problem with the Empire.
Yeah,
they don't matter.
They're not the only ones who have that problem.
They're disposable.
Well, I just kind of feel like, especially after Kingsglaive, the fact that this game just throws everyone from the Empire just out the window, and by the time I'm skipping ahead, but by the time you get to the Empire, it's like they're all just dead.
They all dead?
And you're just like, but how and why are they already, like, why didn't I get to experience
Well,
all this stuff?
the reason / really excuse was, you're seeing this through all Noctis's point of view. That's why you can't see really much of everything.
I think that's kind of crap, though.
Because in chapter...
I mean, think about 12.
No, there's several points.
In chapter 3,
where you see stuff that Noctis had no possible way of seeing.
Dudes that look really cool, but you're never going to see again. And one of them is like that crazy scientist guy. I did not know this when I was playing the game. That's Frontos down. It's like, Did I miss
That's
something? Did I
Prompto's father.
accidentally like skip a cutscene or something?
And you don't even find this out in the game. You learn that this guy is Prompto's dad in the freaking strategy guide.
What? That was Prompto's dad?
Yeah, the scientist Verstale, something.
What
Never
the
hear his
fuck?
name spoken aloud. I remember they had him. I think he was originally supposed to have a larger role because in the very first trailer that they released for the game, like when they actually made the game into 15, it showed him in one of the full motion video sequences with, some soldiers behind him. So I think he was supposed to have a much larger role, and then as they started narrowing the story down, they just decided, let's cut this guy, which doesn't make sense because he is a scientist who, obviously, with Arden's guidance, would have developed
unless they're saving
the
all of that for
Magitech
episode
troopers.
Prompto.
In which case, they probably should have mentioned something remotely to that effect when they had Prompto show back up at the end game. I had to take care of something personal. Because the only time episode Prompto can really take place is the part where he's been removed from the team after you get onto the Imperial continent.
When he gets thrown off the train.
Yeah, because you see him in the snow. You see him in a snowy area, and he's, bundled up in a jacket and stuff. I think it's hilarious that episode Prompto puts Prompto in a beanie and a jacket, and then episode Gladio, you get that rugged attire after you the timed mode, which takes a shit.
For me, the thing is,
which I don't
really
mind at all.
The point of, like, especially with Gladio, because I was the obvious one that they booted off the party and then brought back. It's like, oh, this is where the episode is gonna happen. I don't understand what the point of that was when you have like 10 years of free time to do like DLC for these characters, because there's 10 years of storyline that the Noctis is not there that you could work with instead of like trying to shoehorn in it.
There is literally enough time to have two interquels completely unrelated to each other that could be full stories. Like, you could have one that is about the Chocobros doing shit as they, try and stave off. One about Iris becoming a demon hunter. You could have the one about the little kid becoming a long-haul trucker,
His name is Talcott.
Talcott becoming a long-haul trucker.
Yeah, I'm not gonna remember that in an hour.
Alright, talcum powder, got it.
Talcum powder. And he grows into a little hottie. When you run into him after 10 years, I'm like,
and that is why Lith is not allowed to be a teacher.
Yeah, he's still like
oh my god,
a teenager.
But no, I mean,
or something. How old was Talcott
whatever.
before the 10-year skip, anyways?
Like 8 or 10, not much more than that, I don't think. I mean, he's probably a full-grown adult after the time skip.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it. I really do. That 10-year time skip would have been the perfect opportunity to showcase, everything that these characters go through while Noctis is not there. But at the same time, I understand why, like, these DLC episodes would take place over the course of the main game, because you have Noctis going through his journey. It only makes sense that these other characters would go on their own journey kind of right along beside him.
Yeah, but didn't they go into a bigger journey once they weren't with Noctis? Because once, like, Noctis was gone, and you had those 10 years, that's when they really went on the journey.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ignis's is set in those 10 years, because he doesn't have a big gap that he can have an adventure in during the main story, other than that.
Well, I mean, it could show how he went blind in the Leviathan fight, but, I mean, I get it. That's not much of a window.
I could see that as part of his, but that's not, that's not enough to be just a DLC.
I don't know.
Like, there's not a narrative arc there, unfortunately. It would have to start with him. Like, you could have a flashback to when he is blinded and then jump to him, blind during the time of darkness. Have it all be completely audio-based. First-person, shooter.
Yeah, See, I don't know what his DLC is gonna be about. I know what it should be about. It should be about Ignis discovers a new recipe.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be
you
awesome?
just play Cooking
Yeah.
Mama.
No, we go on an episode of
You know what?
Cutthroat Kitchen.
If Square made like a Cooking Mama type game but had it with Ignis, there are so many
And
people
then,
who would
like,
play that.
here's the stinger from his DLC. Like, you
No.
go through a scene with Noctis in where he's in the ice thingy that he is, in the crystal, for the 10 years, and then Ignis crashes through. Noctis, I discovered a new recipe. And then he leaves again. And that's my joke for the episode.
But no,
I just that 10-year gap. I mean, I don't know if I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, but I don't think. I mean, that 10-year gap is just basically everybody waiting for Noctis to come back. I mean, I don't really see what more room there would have been for the characters to develop, because they went on this huge journey with him, and he got sucked into a crystal, and now they're waiting for the guy to come back, and when he does, they go and kick ass and everything. But there's just
but they didn't spend those 10 years just waiting for him. Like, they had to do a lot of shit during those 10 years.
I know, but they were killing demons, and Ignis was becoming a gourmet seafood cook.
Which is way more interesting than what happened in the first half of the game.
They really should have just, cut from chapter 3 all the way to the crystal, and then just had those 10-year time gap.
Yeah, but it's like for instance, if Gladio's DLC took place after Noctis was already gone, I mean, I'm trying not to go into details with the DLC because I'm sure many of our listeners may or may not have played through it, but it's like he goes on this quest to gain more power
so that he can be a proper shield of the king.
So he can be a proper shield of the king after the king has already been sucked into this crystal, and when he comes back, they're gonna go and fight Arden, and then he's going to die. I mean, what's the point in going to get this power if your king has to sacrifice himself anyway? Like, do you get what I'm saying? I mean, I understand both sides. I mean, I can understand, why we could put, a lot of this character development stuff in the 10-year gap, but at the same time, I also don't think it would make much sense. I mean, I would love some type of fan service DLC, where you're running around in those 10 years in the dark, but at the same time, I don't think it really makes much sense to really put much emphasis on what everybody is doing.
Okay, here's the thing. And you played the game more recently than I did, but didn't Gladius and the other ones only find out that Noctis was gonna die like the night before they invaded the capital? Like, I think that's because I was complaining about that scene because there was.
I don't even think they knew he was gonna die even then.
No, that's what that.
No. I thought that they thought it was a suicide mission rather than he had to die.
I think that campfire scene.
It was
very well.
I think
Keep
that.
going, sorry.
Yeah, I think Noctis knew he had to die, but I don't think he fully relayed that to his friends. Just that it was very much a suicide mission.
Because this is where I'm going with. Say, he goes into this adventure after they lose Noctis because, he feels like he failed him, and he needs to get stronger for when Noctis has come back, he can actually be a proper shield of the king or whatever it is, and then he doesn't fail him again.
That would have fucking destroyed me. Gladio goes off to get stronger. He comes back. Noctis sacrifices himself. Like, can you imagine how shitty Gladio would have felt, wanting to protect his king, gaining this power, and then Noctis comes back and sacrifices himself anyway.
But that would have been a great growing moment for that relationship, because
it would have.
Then Gladio would have to understand, Noctis is now a grown man, and it's his decision what he does, and he chose to sacrifice himself.
But at the same time, it almost it kind of just makes that the climax of Gladio's story arc almost worthless because he gains this power, but he can't use it. I mean, I could actually, looking at it, I can understand how dramatic it would be, but I can see how.
To be fair, this is coming from someone I don't know anything about episode Gladia, so I'm coming from just like from the actual main game.
Oh no, I get you. I mean, I can see both sides of the coin. I can see, how it would work and how it wouldn't work. I'm just trying to argue both sides of it, but what were we talking about before we started going into character arcs again?
We were talking about the first half of the story.
First half of the story.
Like the only issue about the first half of the story is when they were going into the actual story and not into like the guys having fun. It started to get really shaky, and there were times like they wanted to use like the thing with the car when the car gets stolen, and I don't understand why the Empire spends so much time trying to get the car. It's just a car. You got better stuff than they do.
I think it was specifically they only wanted to keep the car locked down, both as a way to deny you a car and as a bait to try and get you in their area. But that was very poorly, like, they should have done anything to explain that. Like, very obviously, the Empire does not need that car, and if you wanted to, you could steal your ass as a new car, or just get somebody to give you one.
And it's like, why would you take the car? Why would you take the car to lure Noctis to this base when you already had him in your grasp on the freaking airship when you saved him from Titan? To be fair, that was Arden, and Arden is a villain that likes to toy with his prey, obviously, but...
Well, Arden had very different motivations than the rest of the Empire. The Empire wanted to see Noctis crushed and Lucis taken over. Arden wanted to face down, like, he literally wanted to have a confrontation with Noctis at his ultimate and destroy him then to prove that he was the better, king, and he should have been the chosen one.
You know what the trouble is with toying with the enemy and steadily letting them become more powerful? You risk getting your ass kicked, which is what happened to Arden.
Yes, but Arden very specifically went insane and basically did all of this to try and get back at the gods, to say, your chosen one is a little bitch. I can help him along the way and still destroy him. And then he got hoisted by his own hubris.
Arden, it has like the worst case of...
But you can at least understand his arc there, because he had to prove himself. Whereas, he's not toying with... he's not just toying with Noctis because he thinks it's fun. He actually has something to prove. He's had something to prove for over several millennia now, and it's driven him a bit sideways. Batty, can you tell?
Oh, I can tell. Anybody with that fashion sense obviously isn't thinking clearly.
At least you can remember that stuff, like the stuff that he was doing. But some of the other villains that were in the game that we already mentioned before, the one that killed the old guy, the game wanted us to care about, but I don't care. At least I haven't seen the old man died. I could have cared a little bit. So you go after that guy. You get the only reason I knew he was the guy that killed the old man is that when I was listening to him, he was talking about it. Then you capture him, and then you find out later that he escaped. It's like, well, that was a waste of time.
That pissed me off so much. Oh my god.
I wish they would have at least shown part of the scene of those Imperial soldiers, coming into Lestalem looking for the prince. I mean, that would have been, a good opportunity to show a cutscene or something, a little exposition on that, other than just...
They could have done what 12 did, because 12 had a lot of cutscenes that explained, so many other characters. There's so many characters in that game that the main party doesn't even meet, but we, the audience, get to see them in cutscenes.
I know, because 12
had a deeper story.
I mean, not necessarily. It's just 12 had a different style of storytelling because
which they did really good in.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
12 had a finished story. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say 15 did not, there is a massive story, a good story in 15. The problem is they did not finish it. The It Is Told from Noctis's point of view is a saving throw to try and get around the fact that they did not finish all that they wanted to do.
So many things could have been explained if we just had, a little bit of exposition, a small cutscene showing this, or a small cutscene showing that.
Yeah. Like, we could still have Noctis be the primary viewpoint character, but we don't have to be...
You don't have to sacrifice...
hardcore third-person limited.
You don't have to sacrifice the story just to tell it from
we can have the occasional peaks.
See, the other thing was, in the first half of the game, the group. Like, when you go to Altissia, you have that point before you go, you take a picture of the whole group. The other... Cole and all those other people. But the first half of the game didn't spend barely enough time with those people, and yet the game makes it out to seem like, this is this really close group that's been doing all this stuff together, and all these people, when none of that was true.
More core.
Yeah, you needed a lot more time with Core and Iris and all of them.
I actually did pick that photo at the end when you going through Prompto's photos to take one. I'm like, I'm gonna do this one.
Oh, me too. I kind of regret it because it was much funnier if you pick a photo of Sydney or Iris or stuff when he looks at the picture on the end. That was a wasted opportunity to get a good laugh out of it.
Well, the entire point was, the later times I chose much sillier photos, like one of him getting his butt handed to him by a monster.
Oh, I should have done that one too.
I think I originally...
that was one of the better photos taken in the game.
I think I chose... I was going to choose the group photo, but a lot of people were picking that one, so I chose a picture from all of the guys in Altissia.
Aww.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was a nice touch at the end of the game, but, there is, there's room for hilarity, let's choose a picture of Cindy and have Luna look at a picture of Cindy at the very end. Who's this bitch?
Oh, look, there's a character that had more screen time than I did, and for some reason I bailed as a protagonist here.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, which is where everything ending,
I do want to talk about
with the game.
Some of the latter half of the game, which I will define as everything past Chapter 9.
They had mix from versus to what they had from 15. They just like, I think Square Enix said, you have to release this game, we can't keep waiting, so it's just like, let's chop together whatever we have and hope that flows into something resembling.
Oh yeah, no, it was Xenogear Syndrome all over again. All we were lacking was Noctis sitting in a chair telling us what happened between plot points.
Yeah.
But from the moment you get on the train, you are locked aggressively into a story, and you're still only getting bits and pieces of it. But that is where, like, chapters 10 through 12 all felt way too short and could have probably been one whole chapter. Chapter 13, and I said this on the last time we tried, should have been a couple chapters. Like, even if you're alone for all of them, that was just way too extended.
I remember when...
At the very least, like, put a chapter mark when you get the sword back. Or when you get swords back, I should say.
I remember when I had beat the game, and Tenny was about to beat the game. We were talking on Skype, and she's like, "Hey, I just got to chapter 13.
Oh, you silly
think I can beat the game tonight?" And I'm like, "No, not unless you're up for like another 5 hours."
I recall I was on Skype because I started the game like early on a Sunday morning. I'm like, I think I can plow through the game. I'm starting chapter 13. And, it's like, oh, it's going to take you forever. Yeah, I figure. And then it still took longer than I thought, because it was like 6 or 7 hours after I started that I finally hit the, that I had to restart near the end, because that's when I hit the friggin' falling through the floor glitch.
I was going to say, it did not take me 6 to 7 hours to get through chapter 13.
Oh, no, it wasn't chapter 13. It was chapters 13, then 14, and then reloading half of 14 because I fell through the floor and lost about
basically the game
maybe an hour's worth of wandering around, and then I did it much more efficiently the second time, but I was still very salty.
Oh,
Yes,
this
it
is really
did.
bad. The thing is, like, I was on the forum, I was one of the first people that went through the game, and I was one of the first people to experience Chapter 15, and I made my opinions on that fucking horrendous chapter very clear, that I fucking despise it. Like, there were some interesting ideas, but it was way too long. Like Rio said, it should have been different chapters. The whole thing with you without powers got boring and annoying very quickly because they didn't really do anything interesting with it. They just like wanted to frustrate you. And it's a lot. The fucking robots on the ground trying to jump scare you worked twice. There was a time were annoying because I knew they were there and I couldn't do anything about it. Then after you go through all of that, oh, and like the actual bits and pieces that were interesting, you get to read it in the codex what's actually happening there, and no, you had to actually show me something.
That would actually be a great place if they were not so adamant. If they had time to do this and weren't doing their "this is just Noctis's viewpoint," that would have been a great place to have had the focus shift to the other three. Like, first off, have them find Prompto or Prompto find them, and then all three of them having their own adventure through the place. Without
like
the
you're
standard
finally
supplies.
in Niflheim. And they're like, oh no, everyone's dead or turning to a magic deck or whatever because we never really had an explanation. Or there wasn't people there. I still don't know what was going on with that city. And
everyone in the city turned into a demon, I think.
I'm just gonna call it white chlorination syndrome.
That's what happened to them.
And
yeah, pretty much. They basically stole the plot of Nier.
Like, they either turned into demons or they just disappeared entirely. Some of the notes that you encounter throughout Chapter 13 explain, some of the phenomena in different parts of their continent about, various, groups of people disappearing all over the place and stuff, which doesn't make much sense. I mean, I like Chapter 13. I mean, it was long, but
with the codex,
I really liked how creepy it was.
I liked 13.
I liked how Arden taunted you the whole way through. The magic was the Ring of the Lucii magic was frustrating to use, but I mean that's really my only complaint about.
Like, the issue is that they really didn't do anything with it. They didn't done this much. Interesting gimmick with it, but they didn't do anything. The thing with the codex, like showing you what had like happened in like this entries and codex entries, like it goes one of the first rules of storytelling: show, don't tell.
Yeah,
exactly.
They were very much in the oh shit, we have to do something, so we have to tell part, because again, this was a game that was cobbled together from most of a game, but still an unfinished game at the end because they'd been told to get it done and get it out by a certain deadline.
The other issue is with the Emperor, and I didn't know this. I only found out after I finished the game that fucking annoying demon that could like annoying me during corridors.
Oh, I knew that was the Emperor because when he finally dies, I can't remember what he said. He said something about like I'm supposed to rule forever, and I was all like, was that the fucking?
I don't know. It's like, a fucking to me, it's a fucking demon that would all say that anyways. But like the thing is,
yeah.
No. But it's just no. The what he said seemed very specific of the Emperor. Because I remember when he died, and he said something when he died. You could hear a voice. Yeah. When that demon died,
they explicitly call him out as the Emperor.
Like, oh my god, that was the Emperor that was chasing me around this whole time.
Okay, the thing is, the issue is, I finished that at 4 a.m, and I was extremely angry, frustrated, and I was extremely sleepy, so I wasn't really paying attention to what he was saying. But the first time he attacks you in a corridor, I got his health down to 50%, and then he disappeared. And then he appeared again with his health bar full, and it's like, fuck you fucking motherfucker.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. No, that was irritating. I basically, after that, I'm just like, okay, screw you. Bye, Felicia.
But eventually
you're not
you
worth
have
it.
To kill him.
And then the cherry on top of that chapter is like, you have the hardest boss fight with Viserys Understudy. I'm never gonna say his name. Viserys Understudy sounds better. And it would have been awesome, except that it's just the end of the fucking fucker of a chapter.
I didn't have any problems with it because I was like at level 70 when I went through there. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to gloat, but I didn't have any problems with the Ravis fight at all.
I can't remember what level I was on. Because I think that I feel like the end game is really set up for somebody who's like level in their 30s or something. Is that what it is?
It
Like
really
40s,
is.
Because
I
I
think.
remember I was like way over leveled. Because I remember like the closer I got to the end of the game, I was all like, this is actually a lot easier than I feel like it should be right now.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, they had no idea what people were going to be doing. They thought that people were just going to go ahead and tackle that plot straight ahead and go like, oh, side quest. This requires me to be a certain level. Well, I guess I'll be that level and take on that side quest.
Like people would do that. Here's the thing: if you tell us to do something, we're not going. We're gonna do the opposite. When you get the car for the first time, Ignis is like, "Oh, don't drive the car right now." It's like, "Oh, shut up, Ignis. I know what I'm doing." Then I find a fucking demon. It's like, "Oh shit, I'm so sorry, Ignis." If you tell me, "Oh, you had to go," I'm going to level up. I'm not gonna do the story. Yeah, so we do the opposite. That's just we're stupid humans that like to do the opposite of what we're told to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've kind of skipped ahead and just gone straight to chapter 13.
Well, like, if we want to take a step back before we get to the end of the game, I do have to say that I really felt cheated by Luna dying so early in the plot. I always kind of thought that if
Okay, guys.
I knew it was gonna happen. I
figured
from all the trailers and everything, I
would,
knew it was gonna happen.
Not when she did, because I just really, I felt like I didn't feel satisfied.
That's our final subject.
Did we feel satisfied by the game?
No, it was like the whole Luna thing in general.
Okay, so we can talk about the end of the game and
No.
go back to Luna.
Luna.
Okay.
We're skipping over all the chapters, just go straight to the end, and then Luna.
Yeah.
I was joking, though.
The final... No.
No,
well,
go ahead.
that's sort of what we are doing.
Just keep talking.
I mean, we do need to talk about the ending at some point. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about the early chapters, or anything that's not right at the end?
Cup noodles?
Cup noodle.
You mean the best side quest ever?
I mean,
that's totally not
marketing?
that
side quest kind of took me out of the game a little bit. I was like, dear God, you're not doing this. It was so stupid.
I mean, we touched on this before, but like the 10 years time skip was a completely waste of time when you get there with Noctis and you find out all this cool stuff that's happening, like get on a car and get to the city and finish the game. It's like, well,
but all you can do is head to the...
Here's my take on it. I kind of feel like the game... I know that they're trying to go for this to be a tragedy. I'm not 100% sure if I feel like 15 did a good job of being a tragedy. I really feel like they just sort of throwing shit at Noctis just because, like, it didn't all feel like it was an organic extension of the plot. It's like, you just know that the writers are just all like, let's have this happen and that happen and this happen and that happen. Like, Noctis having to die, it didn't seem like it should have been necessary. Whereas, like, okay, for example, spoilers for people who have not beat Final Fantasy X. What happened to Tidus at the end of Final Fantasy X? And you come from the viewpoint of when they made that, they were not planning on trying to bring him back in 10-2. That there was an actual reason for what happened to Tidus at the end of 10 to happen. Like, it wasn't just the writers who are like, let's just make this sad for the sake of being sad. That you were given a reason, and it made sense. Whereas with Noctis, it just kind of seems like, well, because Bahamut said so. Or, like, because the writers dictate for it to happen.
Well, it's kind of...
They did give you a reason, but rather than the reason feeling organic, it felt like they created a reason so that they could have him sacrifice himself.
I think maybe that's one of the things left over from Versus. It's just that now that you don't have Stella in that Romeo and Juliet role, it just didn't really make a lot of sense anymore.
Yeah, and I also kind of feel like there was a lot going on, like a 10-year time skip, and then Noctis comes back just to die. They should have done 10-year time skip and have Noctis live and take over his country and rule as king, or not do the time skip and then you can have Noctis die.
See, but
Both seems like it's a little overkill.
but then you wouldn't have the stupid beginning of the game where you spend 3 seconds in the future and then you immediately go to the past, and what was the fucking fun is in the game in the future?
I mean, they could have still done that without the 10-year time skip.
Yeah, they still could have done something like that without the time skip.
I'm not too fussed about that.
You just like everyone with facial hair.
There was no point of that. There was no point of that. At least if you had started the game with them young, at least the whole 10 years time skip would have been at least like this spoiler, this huge moment. But then you already know that going in, and there was no reason to do that in the first place because it goes nowhere. It's 3 seconds in the future.
It's not even 3 seconds in the final battle.
Exactly.
It's 3 seconds in the quasi penultimate
Before the fight even
Yeah.
starts. Really.
And that's one other thing, which is like the whole like
what they could have done. Actually, you know what would have been hilarious? And this would have actually, granted, it would have been like weird and confusing as the plot went on. What they should have done, they should have started in that the part of the ending where you're seeing the wedding banners for Noct and Luna.
Oh god, man.
And it literally have it be, so let me tell you about the story of how I got here, hon.
This is the story of
Then
how
jump
I
all
died.
the way back. No, not even this is the story of how I died. So I want to tell you the story of how I got
Listen
married.
to my story.
You know,
This may be
or
our
the
last
story of
trip.
my wedding day and the trip up to it.
Oh god.
Yeah. Kids, I want to tell you how I met your mother.
Jesus.
oh, see, I was gonna say this is going to a How You Met Your Mother joke, and we can go into a How I Met Your Mother ending jokes,
Yeah.
having nothing to do with how I actually met your mother.
Yeah. But no, like, I do think it would have been a great, like, not hilarious, but it would have actually been a very good gut punch to have started, instead of in that completely pointless battle, have it start with, an older-looking Noctis and Lunafreya, both of them sitting, like, and all we get is the shot of their wedding banner and a shot of the two of them on the throne, with him holding a photo you don't see, and him telling her, so let me tell you about how I finally got here.
That'd be cool.
You know? And have it be him telling her the story. That would at least justify most of the story being from his perspective. You could even have her cut in with, oh, but this was going on at the same time, because she knew more of what was going on in the world. And then eventually, like, come end of chapter 9, people are like, wait a second, but wasn't she at the start of the game? Why is she dead now?
Because you wouldn't see it coming. Ah.
Because he's explaining
Yeah.
it to her in the afterlife.
I technically think that they're not dead, but ascended into godhood, but 601.
I guess. I don't know.
I literally think that he's like the new embodiment of the crystal's light, and she's basically been brought up to godhood along with him.
Or he's
Like,
the
I
sun
think
next to
she's the
moon.
planet now, and he's the sun. Yeah.
Like,
Even though
this-
his name literally means nightlight.
So she is the moon that lights up his night.
oh god, this is
The night
stop
sky.
now. No.
Yep.
She's the moon that lights up the night sky.
I like it.
That's poetic. Kind of like how Titus and Yuna
Sun
are
and
sun and the moon.
moon. It's her because Yuna means moon something, right?
I'm pretty sure it does. I mean, I know it's also a type of hibiscus flower, but I'm pretty sure her name also means moon in another language, right? I
See,
could've sworn it
behind the
did.
name.
Hang on, I gotta wiki of this now.
Just do that later. It doesn't matter. None of that happened in the game anyways.
I know. I'm joking. I'm joking.
The only other thing for it was like when you find out when you're on the train that like, oh, the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting longer, and this is a huge thing. It's like, shouldn't you have set that up before now?
In Japanese means night or moon.
Yeah, they should have had
Yuna means
in...
night in the Okinawa.
Yeah.
The Okinawa? Okay. Whatever website.
The Okinawan is an old way of saying a language. Bizarrely,
I
you
suppose.
find it a lot in old comic books, translated from the blank.
So yeah, so Titus was the sun,
Yeah.
and Yuna was the moon. So, yeah.
It was like a yin and yang type theme.
I mean, there's even artwork of them in a yin and yang pose.
But it was also the two lovers sharing the sky who can never meet. Like it's even more sad and poetic than the Tanabata story of the two may only meet once a year.
And then, but hey,
Aww.
don't worry. If you get the good or perfect ending in 10-2, Tidus comes back to life with no explanation whatsoever. He just does.
But at least they lampshade that, I guess. So they're like, how did you come back? I guess because you loved me enough. But really, I have no idea. Then you can shove him in. It's like,
well, that's like the story of every Final Fantasy. Love.
You can see me, but I'm making gag noises.
That's pretty standard.
that's...
In Final Fantasy, you can conquer
Yes,
anything through the power of love and friendship.
Yay!
Even time travel. Wait for the FF8 retrospective podcast. It's going to be a doozy.
So that ending, guys.
The plot of 8 is messed up. Yeah, so the ending, like, I did like the way that they presented the ending. I wish that we'd gotten at least a little more of an answer of what had happened to the other 3 Chocobros.
Yeah.
And some shots of the other people who we were told were still alive, seeing them reacting to the new dawn. Because all we saw was Time Dog seeing the sun and reacting, and then we cut to, the royal wedding.
I think... No, you go ahead, Carlie.
Well, like, for me, like, I would have liked the better explanation of her exposition of Arden. I feel like he would have been a much better character had we actually really gotten a chance to know him. In the podcast that we lost, I said that he reminded me, in a way, of the War Doctor, Doctor Who. And that's not a spoiler anymore. That's 4 or 5 years old, and everyone knows who the War Doctor is.
John Hurt.
4 years, yeah.
R.I.P. John Hurt.
Yeah, he was awesome. I want to see more stuff with him.
Well, then you're going to have to go back and find it, because unfortunately John Hurt dead.
Oh yeah, he's dead. I forgot about that. Perfectly forgot how awful 2016 was.
Yeah. I mean, John Hurt was an old fellow anyways.
That was...
But you can go back and watch Alien, and then you can go watch Spaceballs. Yeah, John Hurt was an alien.
Spaceballs? Who did he play in Spaceballs?
Yeah, he was also in Spaceballs.
I don't fucking know what that is.
The same person he played in Alien. So, do you remember at the end of Spaceballs when they're in the diner?
No. Well, he's the one.
And the guy goes, "Oh God, not again!" That is John Hurt, who's literally playing the same character he played in Alien, having the same thing happen to him.
Oh my God,
that was the joke.
Yeah, that was a chess person.
John Hurt was also the voice of the dragon in Merlin. I liked Merlin. The ending sucked though.
I stopped caring about Merlin around somewhere. I think the last good season was 2. After 3, it was like, it's not good anymore.
It was charming.
Anyways.
Cheesiness.
Yeah, anyways. Yeah. Anyways, like...
War Doctor.
The ending. Actually, I want to talk about Arden for a little bit, because... I don't know, I kind of wasn't impressed by him at first. I mean, I kind of had the feeling that he would be the main villain just from the material that we saw, and then in King's, what little we saw of him in Kingsglaive at first, and yada yada, but, I mean, I wasn't really impressed by him or his motivations, I guess, till... I mean, we don't even really find out his motivations until the very end of the game, the end of Chapter 13, in a cutscene, and then... boom, 10 years has passed, and then you go to Insomnia and you fight him, and it's like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that I didn't know until the very end of the last, 2 hours of the game what the villain's motivations were, why he set me on this path, why he hated me. I didn't like that at all. I mean, kind of in retrospect, I think Arden is a decent villain now. I mean, he's obviously very sick and twisted in the head. Like in Chapter 14, when you go to Insomnia, you get in the throne room, and you see the bodies hanging from the ceiling. I was surprised that Square had put something like that in there. bodies hanging from chains in the ceiling is kind of, it's like very grim, macabre imagery, and I loved it. Because, I mean, to the point where, like, after, Arden did his little poof, I'm gone scene, I went up to the top of the room where the throne was and just kind of rotated the camera around to look at these bodies because I just thought it was really cool looking. And I'm like, okay, now I have a feeling for how sick and twisted this guy is in the head. And in chapter 13, when he's taunting you throughout that whole thing, it's just my main. I've gone off on a nonsensical tangent here, but bottom line is, I didn't like that I found out in the very last few hours of the game what the villain's motivations were. Like, I didn't like that.
I liked Arden. I thought that he was charismatic. And I do like charismatic villains. I liked him taunting Noctis. I mean, before you get to chapter 13, I liked all the shit on the train where he was, like, just taunting Noctis on the train, and then more so in chapter 13. I do agree that...
Yeah, he makes Noctis push Prompto off the train and stuff. I like
really
that.
Great. But I do admit that I do think that his motivations are kind of a little weird. I was all like, okay, so you waited for 7,000 years or something like that.
He's got the worst reaction to getting fired ever.
Okay, so this is why I compare him to the War Doctor and what the game could have done better with the character. Like, much like the War Doctor, he lived through a time that was extremely difficult that made him choose like something terrible to do. And with the War Doctor, his previous incarnations and his later incarnations were like dismissive of him, and like he didn't have like a number doctor who's like the one that everyone wanted to forget and ignore and pretend it didn't happen. And with Arden was like all the previous kings didn't let him to be part of that because of what he did. The difference with the War Doctor and Arden is that Arden went crazy and wanted to get revenge for what happened to him, whereas the War Doctor always saw himself as a lesser person than the other doctors for what he did, when that wasn't really the case. He just happened to be in a position where probably the other doctors would have done the same thing, and eventually he got, in the 50th anniversary, the other doctors wanted to remember that they finally saw him as an equal, that's part of what you did, that's you, and that's nothing to be, there's no reason to be hiding that. Whereas Arden, of course, gets obliterated for his choices. And I mentioned before that I wasn't a big fan of the other kings, and I always felt, since I saw the Kingsley, they were fucking assholes and more than a bit racist.
Racist?
I mean, like, we had this conversation before when, like, Nox puts the ring on, and it's like, oh, but you're not worthy because you don't have blue blood. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up. I immediately didn't like them.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, you have the spirits of all these kings that are trapped in this ring, and you have someone put the ring on, show up demanding to use their power. I mean, yeah, they come across as a little high and mighty, but it's like, you're not even of our blood. And see, they mistake Nyx's intentions at first. They think that they're kind of selfish, but, once they see that his intentions are good and he really just wants to use their power to protect the people and, to try and save the city, which, ultimately doesn't succeed, they grant him their power and everything, but...
At a cost.
At a cost. I mean...
Which I hated because I like Nyx.
Very, very big cost.
For once, I'd like a happy ending for things like this, but I mean, that's just kind of a common theme throughout, literature and storytelling, is that, you can have this great power, but it comes at a cost. That's a common theme throughout, a lot of Final Fantasy games is, we'll grant you this power, but there's a cost. And, the gods and, the astrals in 15 kind of come across as assholes, but it kind of, it's kind of like they're bound by certain limitations of the world. They're not omnipotent. They have, there's rules that they kind of have to follow. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say here? They're bound by kind of limitations, and it makes them come across as assholes.
Because they are assholes. What they did to Arden was actually pretty bad, even though Arden turned out to be turned out because of that to be a horrible person, but what they did to him was bad anyways.
Well, see, okay, Arden was chosen by the crystal to be the king of light, okay? Arden was also a healer. How he healed people that was affected by the Star Scourge that Afrit had brought onto the world, he healed people by taking that darkness into himself. So he did it to himself, I could say. I mean, obviously he didn't have anybody around to say, "Hey, don't do this or otherwise you're going to be impure," but I mean, he healed those people by taking the darkness into himself, and thus the crystal, deemed him unworthy.
See, but that's not a thing to be unworthy of. And here's the other thing, for me at least. What would the other kids have done if they were in Arden's place?
I have no idea. I mean,
my question is,
the other kings may not.
I also want to know is, why was it okay for, like, obviously it's possible to cure the Star Scourge without taking it in you, because that's what Luna did. So I'm curious why he had to do it, and when it was developed the method to cure the Star Scourge without that, and why only the Oracle seems to have that power.
Probably just the powers granted to different bloodlines, because, when they had that, that great big huge war between, like, the gods and stuff, pretty much the only people, they granted their power, some of them granted their powers to, the Lucis line, and then there was an Oracle line. I mean, Luna, she basically is dying throughout the game, healing people of the Star Scourge and making the covenants with the gods. It is slowly killing her. I mean, she even says in the game, my flesh is beginning to fail me. And I mean, I don't know how Luna can heal people, whereas Arden can't. I guess it just chalks it up to, the different powers that were granted to the different bloodlines. I don't know. Square needs to explain that.
They do. And that's a perfect point, unless anybody else wants to say stuff about the ending part, to jump on to Luna, and why wasn't she in this game more?
Let's talk about the campfire scene and how sad it was and how much we liked it.
Oh god,
we
that
didn't really talk about that. I know we did talk about it in the previous recording.
It rip out my heart.
Oh, it was
rip out my heart. Throw it on the ground.
That was a very good coda for the game. I am glad that part of that campfire scene came at the very end of the game instead of where it chronologically was.
Yeah, it was a very nice touch, and it just... I mean, I shed tears. I mean, well, maybe not shed tears, but my eyes did water. I mean, that was some great voice acting from everybody, especially Ray Chase.
I love Ray Chase, but I was making very high-pitched noises.
You made high-pitched noises?
I very, very high-pitched noises.
But that was because her processor was overheating and she was threatening to explode. But we'll not get into that right now.
See, I'm sorry, I disagree. I didn't care for it where it was after everything that happened and Noctis was already there. We go back in time to see that happen. I was like, no, it just lost all meaning to me by that point. Sorry, no. Great voice acting, I'll give you that. Great voice acting. Otherwise, didn't care for it really. It was a nice scene. It's just for me, it should have been where chronologically it happened.
I don't know if it had been where it had happened chronologically. I think that might have been giving us sort of the payoff before time. I can sort of see where you're coming from.
Having the very last thing of the game be Noctis saying, I don't know what to say. You guys
are the best. Oh god, I'm gonna cry.
I do love it when Ray Chase does that. It's really nice.
Oh, that was hilarious when he did it at KoopaCon, and people are like, say something as Noctis, and he's all like, what can I say? And we're like, oh my god.
You guys are the best. And the whole room was just, aww.
Now,
the whole room went crazy.
Now ask him to do something as Eve.
Geez.
But anyways, crap, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I just feel like that was like the perfect way to just end the game. Just like have him say that, you guys are the best, and then boom. Like mic drop. I don't know. I loved it. It was beautiful.
Carlie, it's your time to scream and shine. The topic is Luna.
Well, here's the thing. It's been 5 months, and kind of over it. If you want to watch the video and put it there, I'll be like arguing a lot, very angry. When Lex was laughing because he lost my misery, so that's entertainment to him.
I mean, we all do, to be fair. Your misery sustains us.
Here's the thing, I don't give a shit about Luna as a character because that's not a character. This is like a piece of paper in a wall. Piece of paper. That's paint or something. Like something that has nothing that you don't hate it, you don't like it, it's just something that's there. That was Luna in the game. And
Yeah, they didn't really give her much of a personality.
no, she had nothing. And the voice actress was, at least the English voice actor was all over the place too. That's just adding more badness to the situation. Obviously, that was the more contentious issue going into the game because Stella looked to be a really interesting character. I know some people complain like, oh, we only saw 3 seconds of her. Those 3 seconds were way better than everything we got out of Luna in that game. And
I disagree.
Luna sucks. She's nothing.
Because...
Absolutely nothing in that game. The 3 seconds of Stella was fucking... Stella looked to be an actual character. She actually looked like she was doing something. Luna doesn't do anything in that fucking game. And the times that she looks like she's doing something...
Well,
I disagree.
It's not that she doesn't do anything, but I do feel like they needed to have more of her.
Here's the main issue. Here's the big problem. The way they went about developing that character, the way they handled the whole Stella situation was awful. The way they developed Luna was awful. The way they promoted Luna was awful because all they were doing is like covering their asses. The whole thing, Luna is a more stronger character than Stella. I said that from the start. That sounds like fucking bullshit, and it was. They kept the scene where the Magitech soldiers are pointing guns at her, which in the game makes no sense whatsoever, and like her like batting the gun away just to keep that to make her look strong in the game. That fucking scene has no sense whatsoever in the game. They just left it there to like make her seem like she was actually a strong character. That's not what a strong character is. You have nothing in that game. And still after the game came out, they still came up with all this bullshit explanations like, oh, Luna's a fucking strong character like Stella. No, she isn't. You're just still covering your asses about it. And they actually try, like, her death scene goes on and on and on. Like, someone got confused and thought that was Aerith when she died. Like, I don't give a shit about her death because you did not spend any time to make me care about that character.
I have to say that I don't hate her as much as you seem to.
Yeah, I hate her.
But,
okay, I don't hate her specifically. I hate what she stands for in the game, what was taken away and what was put.
You hate the fact that she is not the Stella that you thought you were promised.
And not even that she's not even a character. She's nothing.
I did say what little we did get of her. We saw a scene closer to the beginning where she was healing people. I kind of got a feeling of like she could have been maybe like Yuna, and then the scene where she summons Leviathan was like super badass, and I was like, I wanted more Luna, like more screen time for Luna to see her do more stuff like that.
That's one of my main issues. That scene, it looked badass, but see what she's doing when she's like she wants that power for Noctis. She's just doing anything for herself the whole game. And after she dies, this is a more insulting thing. After she dies, when she starts seeing scenes of her, and there's a scene where she's talking and saying, "Oh, I just want to like stand next to Noctis." And I'm like, shut up, shut the fuck up. This is just nothing. Like again, I'm going to that trailer from Versus. When you see Scylla, she looks like a genuine person that's actually doing stuff for herself. Whereas Luna, she's just a plot device.
Well, aren't all characters plot devices technically? I mean, they do help spur a plot along.
Yeah, but that's the only point of her.
I mean, I agree. Luna is severely underutilized in the game. I don't think she's a bad character. I mean, when my first playthrough through the game, I mean, I did get attached to her, but I didn't really appreciate her character until I actually, like, you know, watched some of these cutscenes a second time. And unfortunately, we were talking about earlier how the game, you know, tells and doesn't really show it. It more tells it, or I don't know. The game relies a lot on like more subtle cues and everything with Luna's character. I think it relies heavily on the player's ability to make assumptions, which doesn't always happen. I mean, in a lot of the cutscenes, you see that, you know, she is a very conflicted young woman, and she doesn't necessarily, I mean, she follows, a major theme of the game is, you know, it's fate. You know, you have this path, you have to follow it, whether you really like it or not. Like, Noctis is the chosen king. He doesn't want to be, but he does it anyway. Shit, I wish I had written all of this down. But, I mean, Luna does a lot in the story. They just don't show it. She makes the covenants at the cost of her own life. I mean, it's even stated in the game that the havens are made by oracles. You have to go, I think it's like a dialogue in Golden Key that you have to instigate, but you hear it in the background somewhere. I mean, she's not a weak character. She's just severely underutilized, and it's one of those cases where they presented the character wrong.
No,
you know, they really overhyped her, and
I mean, they presented.
Here's a problem.
All...
On a better writer, that might have sort of been decent. But I said this when the development was going on, that I didn't trust Avatar with the character. He did Crisis Core, and he ruined Aerith in that game. And Aerith is an amazing character in the original game.
I don't really see how.
The girl, they turned everything about her about Zack. Why she dresses, why she wears the ribbon, why she's carrying, like why she's selling fire, everything. Everything revolved around Zack.
I didn't mind that so much. I just kind of thought it was dumb that she apparently never went up on the plate, and she was afraid.
Oh, and she was afraid of the sky.
I didn't like that. I did not mind the rest of it.
Everything. No, one thing would have been fine, but everything about her character, everything that she was wearing, everything that she was doing, revolved around Zack. And that's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, I do get what you're saying, because, like, he gave her the ribbon. It's his idea to sell flowers. He tells in a mind wave battle flashback, one of those things, you see that he tells her to wear pinks, and assuming, which kind of, like, gives a suggestion that, like, the way she's dressed in the original game is because Zack told her to dress that way. But I mean, it's kind of, I personally think that it's kind of cheesy, but I don't.
I hate it because
I don't know.
And mind you, I used to dislike Aerith for a long time before I actually got to appreciate her character. But it's the same thing with Luna. It's just, it turns everything about that character towards the male protagonist. Dependent, everything they do is about the male protagonist. It's just, there's nothing there. And Aerith is a great character. And once you do that, it's like, because I didn't know that he was actually the one that made the game. One thing I was like, yeah, now I have no faith in Luna actually working, because it's done for a guy that from what I've seen, isn't actually good at writing female characters. And that's the other problem with the game, because the ones that were actually good in the game, for the few characters that you had in 15, we didn't actually get to see much of them. And the actually cool things that they did, we never got to see them either.
I mean, but the problem is, like, there were so many other characters that got horrifically underutilized. And like, the entire Empire.
Yeah.
It's like, I agree that Luna got horribly shafted, but I think basically everyone who's not named Noctis, Prompto, Gladio, Ignis, or Arden was basically also
and even Arden didn't
plot.
survive that.
Even Core. Oh yeah, no, like, Arden absolutely was shafted for plot, but at least he got some.
Yeah, because he's the villain.
Like, and to me, it goes back to once you start adding all those things together, it doesn't look very good. I complained when Kingsley came out that I already forgot the name of the chick that died.
Crow.
But
like she was like she was the only female Kingsley. If there were other female Kingsley, her death would have been so bad. But
she wasn't the only female Kingsglaive, but she was the only named one. There were others that you see in that initial fight that are also helping her, generate.
See, I only saw the
magic
movie
for the
once,
battle.
but yeah, maybe. So she's the only main one, and she dies almost immediately. That's not a good look for a game that's already on the controversy for like the way they've been treating female characters. And with the actual game, you had the way Cindy's dressing that's just awful, and Aranea and Iris, but interesting characters, but you don't really get to see them much, and the really awesome things that they do, we don't get to see at all. Which goes back to the bogus explanation of why this is all from Noctis's point of view.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that it was because for the longest time I believe Nomura was still the actual director, and then Tabata was actually announced very, very late in the dev cycle for it. Like, even after it had officially been turned into 15, I think. But I think he was basically brought in to try and salvage something playable out of that shit. So, like, I agree he was not great at making it into, a very good character or well-represented female characters or well-represented characters in general. But I think it might have been an even bigger pile of shit before he got his hands on it.
But at least on that matter, he doesn't have a good track record, so...
No, he does not. I mean, he's got the third birthday in his goddamn record, so... Even if he's not directly responsible for most of the controversial shit in that game, he does still have that game in his record.
Is that the one where her clothes would get torn up and she'd be running around naked?
Not naked, but actually naked might even be better, because when you take enough damage, your clothes get artfully damaged to show off your vulnerability, which mostly means seeing a bit more thigh and a little bit more, cleavage.
Huh.
Third Birthday is a terrible, 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 terrible game, and if you like Parasite Eve, never play Third Birthday.
I'll keep that in mind.
I mean, keep in mind, Third Birthday is a game where you are, the first thing you do is you are dressed up in a slinky black dress and heels to go to the opera, and then you decide, well, shit's going down, let me pull my gun out and deal with it, and you do.
In the black dress and heels?
In the black dress and heels, because you're at the opera, and it happens. Because it happens at the opera, and you're like, well, I might as well take care of it. I'm a New York City cop.
This is the opposite of shameless promotion. It's like, oh, if you like the series, don't play this game.
Oh yeah, no, I'm shamelessly promoting Parasite Eve and Parasite Eve 2, but there is no game in the series beyond those, and it's a shame, because, a competent director might have actually been able to do something good with a Third Birthday, but, we didn't.
Crazy.
That might be a good place to end it.
Yeah, I think that is a pretty good place to end that. Yeah, going from how crappy they handled implementing Luna to just how utterly shit all of Third Birthday was. Don't play Third Birthday. Final Fantasy 15 is good to play, even though it has faults. Never play Third Birthday. Also, play Nier Automata. It's damn fun. Those are my final thoughts.
See, now that's shameless promotion.
It is shameless promotion.
Are you sure you're not being paid to promote
Yes.
Nier Automata?
Also play Persona 5.
I'm not being paid yet to promote Nier Automata. No. I just really like the game. And I actually think that it does a lot of what 15 was trying to do a hell of a lot better. Partly by being developed by Platinum, and partly by having a guy who considers how am I going to kill my characters and make you feel bad for them to be the way that he starts thinking about a game.
Oh, so he's like the video game version of George R. Martin.
Yes, but a little bit more. He's got more work ethic. I mean, George R. R. Martin's had, 4 or 5 novels in the past 10, 15 years, whereas, Tara Yoko's had at least 7 games.
Still waiting for that new book.
R. Martin writes other stuff too.
Yes, while you're waiting for the next Game of Thrones book to come out, play every game that Yoko Taro has ever developed.
See, excuse me, it's the next...
You have nearly as much... In fact, you will even have more.
See, first of all, it's a Song of Ice and
No,
Fire
sorry,
book.
can't do it.
But
second of all, like, if you think Morning is bad, the Order of Berserk is so much worse.
Yeah, I yes, Berserk. That is a crapsack world. Demons are a literal everyday occurrence. But at that point, it's just sort of like, yeah, this is just how it is. You go, Guts.
No, but I mean, if the huge amount of time that has taken him into writing that.
Oh yeah, no. Boat.
Huh?
Boat. Idolmaker or Idolmaster, Boat, Idolmaster.
Anyways, next topic, or are we
Yeah.
ending the podcast?
No, we're done.
I think we're done
No,
unless
we're
you
done.
have anything else you want to talk about.
No.
Yeah, we can do an episode Gladio like bonus cast at some
Alright.
other point, Leth.
No biggie.
Just the two of us.
I need to beat Core first. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
Alrighty.
He's not hard. Just you have to stop lusting after him for a minute. I think that's where you failed. You were just
Liz,
drooling
tell
too
him
much
you
and
can
not actually
multitask.
holding the controller.
But I love it when he fucks me up. Sorry, that was begging to be said.
And on that note, I think we are ready to end the podcast.
Say
Good
I'm
night,
a
everybody.
hardcore
Good night,
fan.
everybody.
Adios, nos
Good night,
vemos,
everybody.
hasta mañana. Something.
Listen to my story.
Is this where we do like the Vader thing and be all like something, always protect the crystal?
Oh yeah.
Imperial's above us!
I'm Ryushikaze signing off and saying, honestly, destroy the crystals. It'll get you home.
Destroy the crystal.
This is Evilist. We're in tactics. Come on.